One, we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Imbalance show. So those of you who are familiar with me know that we do a variety of things. We do some serious stuff. We do some fun stuff. We mix it right up. And today is one of those serious stuff we want to discuss. It is not a joke. We are discussing domestic violence. And I have got a very noble panel to discuss this with. I will let the panel introduce themselves a little bit, tell you about their credentials, so you get to know them. And then we will start the actual topic. Elsie, good evening, my dear.
Good evening. So my name is Elsie Owusukumi. I am a social worker and a child protection social worker working with children. And yes, so yeah, that is me. I love what I do, and I love what I do. And then, so currently I am working with working within child protection. But then previously I used to work in what we call children in care, or looked after children, and that is something I can't discuss later, but then that is it. So I'm a child protector and I am a social worker working with children, ensuring that the well-being of children is promoted, working with families, working with parents, working with a child, of course, doing a lot of work with a child, doing direct work with a child so that we can explore the wishes and feelings of the child, because so many times when we are working with families, the voice of the child is lost. So we try to spend a lot of time with the child, because at the end of the day, it is the well-being of the child that we are focusing on. And even though parents may have their views, we need to listen to the child. What is working well for you? What are you happy about? What are you not happy about? What is really happening at home? Because sometimes what parents will tell us about in terms of the child's experiences, in terms of what is happening at home, will be really different from what the child is telling us. And then we would have to weigh it up. We would have to say that, okay, so mom is saying this, mom is saying that this is what is happening at home. Dad is saying that this is what is happening at home. But then the child is saying something different. Are we concerned? What should we do? Should we dig a bit further? So that's the kind of job I do, really.
Okay, that's interesting. Hi, William.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me, Amma. My full name is William Ejapon. I'm also a social worker by trade. I've been doing this job since 2006. And it's a job that I'm really passionate about, especially this topic on domestic violence. I'm also approved mental health professional within the jurisdictions of the Mental Health Act, which actually came into being since 1983 and got amended in 2007. So I've been practicing as an AMP, in short, approved mental health professional, for the last 11 years. Which is also within social work.
That is very interesting. Welcome to this video.
Yeah, and besides, I am also a specialist lecturer on deprivation of liberty safeguards to Birmingham City University, which is local here in Birmingham. Besides, I currently work as a team manager for the largest local authority in the whole of Western Europe, which is Birmingham, which I'm proud of. So that's a little bit about me, Amma.
All right, so it's wonderful. As you can tell, the people I'm speaking to are professionals. They've been on the field for quite a while. They do know what they're talking about. It's not a fun topic. It's not a light topic, but it's a topic we need. Adia, I see you. Good evening. Good evening, Christian. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. It is a topic which is not fun. It is not one I joke with, because it's one which affects a lot of people. It's one of those taboo topics in our society. It happens. We all know it does happen. Every one of us knows somebody who's been a victim, who's been affected. A lot of us know many people who've been affected. But in our community, we don't actually discuss these things. We don't acknowledge these things. We cover them up. We want to not wash up linen in public. We would like to hold certain cards to the chest. And for that reason, it makes it very difficult for people to discuss it. and for people to know what to do if you become a victim. And that's one of the reasons why we are here this evening, to have a conversation. But my guests do need to send some things out. So you and I will chat for a minute whilst the guests do the shootouts, and then we will start the actual conversation. Hello, Rapami, good evening, good evening. For those of you who are on live, can you tell me what you think domestic violence is? What do you think it is? Simple text of what you think domestic violence is, what might not be domestic violence, what might be other things, but what is actually domestic violence, and see if we actually do know. And once we've got those in, when the professionals are back with us, I will ask them for their definitions. We will compare with what we thought, what we wrote, and see if we were actually on the money or if we're way off the mark. It would be interesting to know, what is domestic violence, is my simple question. Does anybody know what is domestic violence? That's my question. What is domestic violence? Who knows what it is? Hello, Lady Nana Waterberg. Hi, sis. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. But my question is, what is domestic violence? Who knows? Be brave. Tell me what you think. Have you experienced a situation which you think was an example of domestic violence? Hello, Nana. Hi, 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 hi. It's so good to see all of you. Welcome. We are talking domestic violence, and my very first activity is to see what you guys think domestic violence is. Does the person have to punch you before it is violence? Or is verbal assault also acceptable as domestic violence? What exactly is domestic violence is my question. And before we speak to the experts, I want to see what you guys think at the start. What is your starting knowledge of domestic violence? If somebody were to fall victim, would you know and would you be able to help them? As the program goes, we will talk about where to go to seek support, because you do need support if you become a victim. And what to do, basically, how to recover, how to keep yourself safe. Some of you, I had a program a few weeks ago, and somebody says, oh, I've been a victim for years, but I didn't know that it was domestic violence. And that broke my heart. It really did. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's good to see all of you. Hi, Agnes. What is domestic violence? Hi, Missy. Can you tell me your thoughts on domestic violence? What do you think domestic violence is? What constitutes domestic violence? And if you can think of examples, please put them in the comments. William, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you.
Let's start from you. Can you tell us a little bit about this domestic violence thing? What is it? What is domestic violence?
Right. Just before I define what domestic violence is, I'd just like to say that it's an area that I'm really passionate about.
Okay.
And you're right, Emma. It's a subject that easily gets covered up in our society, in our community especially. People hardly do talk about domestic violence.
Yeah.
People, when you go to the faith groups, within the churches, within the mosques, within the wider society, people hardly talk about this sensitive subject. But it's a crucial subject that everybody needs to be aware of. Everybody needs to advocate for victims of domestic violence. So just define that. I actually like Women's Aid definition of domestic violence, and it goes beyond just physical violence. I would domestic abuse rather than domestic violence, because it's not just physical activity here. The bottom line is what I call power imbalance. So where you've got a relationship where one person exerts power influence over the other, and that's where it all starts.
Yes.
So it's an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, threatening, degrading, and violent behavior, including sexual violence, in majority of cases by a partner or ex-partner, but also by a family member or a carer. So it's a group thing. It's not just within one-to-one. You could have a whole family exerting power influence over the other. Yeah, so it's not just one-to-one. It could be many-to-one, if you like. Yeah, and in majority of cases, women tend to experience these unfortunate incidents more than men.
Yes.
According to Women's Aid. And in practice as a social worker, I've come across a number of cases where there's been vast majority of women experiencing domestic violence within their own community, within their own relationships, and they live quite late before they seek for help. So sometimes it starts rather slowly, which can be quite insidious. You know, it creeps in little bit, and then it ends up to be what I call a tipping point. It gets to crisis point, start seeking for help. So by and large, these are incidents of coercion, incidents where somebody exerts power influence over the other within a relationship or within a family setting. And it could have it on various forms. And I'm sure we'll talk much more detail about types of abuse.
So just to add a bit to what William has said. So yes, it can happen. It can. So it's not just about your partner or your husband. So for a female victim, and like he rightly said, research is saying that the vast majority of victims of domestic violence are women, and the vast majority of perpetrators of domestic violence are men. It doesn't, however, mean that men cannot be victims, but then they are men victims. However, the majority are women. Again, domestic violence can happen in same-sex relationships, and that is what we need to be aware. So it can happen in same-sex relationships. And just like William said, you can have a situation whereby a woman's partner, whereby it is not just the woman's partner or ex-partner who is, the abuser or perpetrator, but then in a home setting, we can have maybe the woman, the man's family. Yes. So you can have a situation whereby, for families, maybe whereby the man is living with his parents and maybe sisters, and then the wife is also living in the family home and they are married. You can have a situation whereby that's within that setting, the woman can be abused, sometimes not even by the man, but then by the other people, other family members. So we could have the man's parents, the mother or father, the man's sisters, and I have worked in a situation whereby, on a case whereby, the woman was saying that the man would go to work, and then his mom and his sisters, well, in this case, they were not living in the same house, but then they would ask her to come over to her in a different, house, different area. She'd have to go there and cook and clean, stay there, look after the children, and she'll be doing all this, and then they will be really, they will rain insults at her, they will belittle her, and it was, so this is the kind of life that she was living, and well, and then again, when she came back home, I mean, the husband was not really reacting to it, was not really doing much about it. And in fact, it got to a time whereby the husband was even adding to, what she was experiencing. The husband was then, emotionally abusing her, calling her all kinds of names. And then, so it is really a huge topic. It is something really crucial. That's something that we need to talk about. And again, we need to be aware that, it is a global concern. It is not a concern of a particular country. It's not one which is only known within the UK or Ghana or Canada or wherever. It is a global concern, which means that in every country, domestic violence is a worry, and we are all working together to address it, both at the personal level, at the structural level, globally. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just to add a few points to Elsie's comprehensive introduction to the whole subject. That's right. So it cuts across race, it cuts across class, it cuts across nations, backgrounds, ethnicity. Yeah, so it doesn't just happen in poor communities, no. Now, I've had the opportunity to work in various teams across Birmingham here. I've worked in very affluent communities and not so affluent places. And when I was placed in a team in an affluent area, I had this notion that everything was okay. And so accepting, I realized, oh, actually, they've also got a pressure of social issues, which was alarming. I mean, some of the cases that I came across were actually alarming as compared to poor places. So it cuts across every class, not just working class, not just the middle class, not just the upper class. It's across the board. And as is right, across the whole nation, it's a global issue. And it has even gone worse as we speak because of the COVID-19 crisis, the whole pandemic that's happening now. And rather unfortunately, you go back to your home where abuse is occurring and people are being told to stay at home and making things worse. And I have to say, home is not home always. If you know that, it's not a safe haven as we speak.
Yeah.
Issues are happening at home that people don't actually mention, that people don't get talked about. Yeah, so imagine somebody having to stay at home almost 24/7 with an abuser. Yeah, so if you ring, let's say, Bernardo's or shelter, there's been huge reports about increases of domestic violence as we speak. So it's over the roof as we speak, and it's a subject that everybody must dip in, must actually contribute and eradicate this menace in our society.
Absolutely.
In terms of some statistics in the UK, right? It says over here that 2 million people suffer domestic abuse each year. 2 million people, and it says that domestic abuse crime occurs every minute in England and Wales. And again, it says that around 30 women a week attempt suicide and 30 women kill themselves each week as a result of being subjected to domestic abuse. It says that 114,000 children live in households where serious domestic abuse takes place. And then, like William is saying, that what makes domestic violence more worrying is in the fact that you can't tell. Like, we have abusers, we have perpetrators of domestic violence in our workplaces, in society, everywhere. Yeah. But then you can't tell that this person is a perpetrator of domestic. You can't tell in their faces. You can't tell in their demeanor. Some people. I mean, many people can be really really posh looking, really like he said, affluent families, and you can't tell. There was once a story I was reading about how this affluent family, this woman from an affluent family, this man from an affluent family, who had met, these two had met, and later this woman know that she was going to be a victim of domestic violence, and everything did start off slowly, and then this man then began to disconnect the woman from her family, from her network. They moved away to an isolated place, and then where she lost contact, she made him to gradually lose contact with her family, her friends, her network, because they went far away from her own community. And that was how, and then gradually the abuse set in. So you can't tell. It's really, really hard to tell that this person that is coming my way, or this person walking on the street, is a perpetrator. You can't tell on people's faces, on people's demeanor.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it really serious.
Let me tell you a real life story of a young lady who was living with their parents, and then the mom decided to ask them a question about who they'll be marrying in future. So the mom said, unfortunately, they were discussing this topic about domestic abuse in Ghana. So this young lady said to the mom, well, when I grow up, I wouldn't want to marry any abuser. So the mom sat down and said, okay, right, yeah, I hear you, daughter. But how would you know that Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C is an abuser? Well, they're not going to wear a jersey like number 9 here, wearing with an inscription at the back to say, yeah, I'm number 9 abuser. I'm number 2, I'm the abuser here. Yeah. So you wouldn't see that. Yeah. And sometimes until you get into relationship, then you start realizing, oh, actually, this person is not who they purported to be. No. The whole demeanor changed, the whole behavior changed, the whole attitude changed, and then all of a sudden you start to see a different temperament about a person. So you cannot tell. And I know some cases too, we do know of certain people who are actual abusers. We know them in our community, and yet some people choose to marry them. Some people decide to get into relationship with them. So that's a different matter. But in most cases, you aren't going to get to know about these people until you get into relationship with them.
Okay. Yeah. That brings me nicely to my next question. I want you to take your time and break it down for us. Because like I said, this topic is alien to many of us. Many of us in our midlife have never really sat down to have this conversation with anybody ever before. I did a little bit of priming before the topic, and I was gobsmacked by some of the feedback people gave me. People who are mid-40s, a few in their 50s, from the returns of the questionnaire, have never discussed this topic with anybody before, ever. And it tells me that it's something we are all, well, mostly not familiar with, so we need to take our time. My next question is the categories and types of abuse. What are the categories and all types of abuse?
Okay, so in terms of the categories, I'll start and then William will pick it up. Yeah, so in terms of that, so we've got different categories of domestic violence, you know, different categories within that. And then therefore it's important for people to be able to know the different aspects of it, so that when they're experiencing it, they will know that, oh, this is really domestic violence. Because many a times what is really common, or what people really know of, is physical abuse. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that is why it's important we talk about the different, you know, so sometimes, so many people are going through domestic violence, but because it is not physical abuse, they don't know they are experiencing or going through domestic violence because it is not physical, because they are not getting hurt, the man is not strangling them, you know, they are not falling down, they are not choking and all that, so they don't see that. So let us go through. So in terms of the categories, we have emotional or verbal abuse. So emotional abuse, obviously we would explain what each of them means, we would have a discussion around each of them, but then we've got emotional abuse, we've got physical abuse, as I had mentioned, we have sexual abuse, we have financial abuse, and then we have financial and economic, we have and then again we have post-separation abuse. That is not really common, you know, it's not really, it's hardly mentioned, but then that is also really serious, and that is post-separation, when you and then the man or whoever is abusing you are no longer together. When you are separated, the abuse that comes afterwards, and that is really serious. A number of times you have women complaining that, oh, this man is stalking me, and sometimes you'll be picking your child from school, and this man will be waiting somewhere watching you. You'll be going to work. Your ex-partner will be waiting somewhere watching you, watching your every steps. Sometimes sending you intimidatory, like thingy on your phone, like text messages on your phone and emails and all that. You know, he is stalking you, and when you find yourself in such situations, you need to be ringing the police, because you are not safe. You know, sometimes he will just come and stand in front of your house, watching your every move, watching the people coming in and out of your house, monitoring your every step. That is not a safe environment to be in, or a safe situation to be in, and that therefore you need to be reported to the police that somebody is talking. So that is what we are looking at. That term is what we call post-separation abuse. So in terms of the emotional abuse, what do we mean by emotional abuse? Emotional abuse, includes your partner or the person or the perpetrator calling you names, calling you names, you know. Sometimes he can say that, oh, you are a prostitute, you ugly woman, you know, you fat, and sometimes they'll be swearing, you fat bitch, or things like that, you know, swearing at you, calling you demeaning names, shouting at you, and sometimes the person would, you know, pick something and smash at the wall, and then, you know, just to startle you, just to make you really, really scared, just to give you a message that, you know, I am in control over here. So emotional abuse, putting you down. Sometimes you go to a party or you go to a family gathering or where you have your friends, and this person will be putting you down, saying things that, you know, would make you feel belittled in the presence of your friends, which is really not a nice situation to be in at all. And again, this person will be opening your emails to check what you've got in your email, to check who is sending you messages, to check who you are interacting with. And then sometimes you'll be going through your phones. Yeah, the person will be going through your phones just to see. So the person is like basically controlling you. The person wants to know who is calling you, who you are talking to, who you are chatting with. And sometimes he would say that, I don't want you to chat with this person again. Take this person off your phone. I'm going to ring this person to warn him or her not to ring you again. And again, you know, he would make you account for every time you spend outside. So like when you go to work, yeah, and you are supposed to maybe come back home. Normally you come back home at 5 p.m. But then on this day you are home by maybe 5:30 or 6 p.m. He will sit you down, get very angry at you, and ask you that, what were you doing? Were you with that man? Were you with this friend? Were you with over there? You know, you were a married woman. You were supposed to be home on time. You know, I am worried that you are leading a reckless life, an irresponsible life, and I'm really worried about you. You know, you are really, really lucky to have me. You are so ugly. You are so fat. Nobody really wants you. So you need to do as I say. You know, so all these things, you are not intelligent. And then sometimes some women have complained that whilst they are at work, their partners and these partners have been calling their bosses every 30 minutes, every 10 minutes, you know, causing a lot of, you know, distractions at work. And then some of these women have even lost their jobs because no boss can entertain that. Maybe, you know, because you are there to work, and if your husband or your partner keeps calling you, say, oh, I'm just checking on my wife. Is she okay? I'm just checking on is she okay? Because he's just watching you, he's just controlling you, and then finally you will end up losing the job. And that is emotional, that encompasses emotional abuse. I bet William would want to add some to it.
Absolutely. Now, the worrying thing is that in our community, I just want to speak to you here for the account speakers to understand it much better. Okay. So my English friends, please forgive me for a little bit. I'll dip back into English at some point. Yanko for Libby or her. I know I saw only in a party cry or Bana and Abema only in the party now or Kasaka Setia. Oh, Jenny Hubi, oh, medium men for Menko Sakura and will be empower some or oh, who never. And I were food. Hey, and that's and I obey me every sort so obey me a yell, sir. Oh, now, also, now, train home. Ocean house, I how. Oh, and I had been away a worry, any relationship, no. Casa Bonipa, Casa Bonia, near Casache, Yanyonko, and Yadepa, yeah, men, yeah, your parties be quiet, and alcohol gathering be quiet. You tend to see some of these things there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. People came down over their partners.
Yes, we see them all the time.
We see. Yeah. Talking over, talking down, belittling them. Yeah, totally unacceptable.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, for me, relationship should be a healthy one, and it should be love. So if it's love, then it should be of equal power. That's how it should be.
Mutual respect, yeah.
Mutual respect, mutual love. That's what it should be. But where you go, somebody who thinks that they sit right up here over the other, then unfortunately, the signals start to the alarm bell starts to ring. And that's what we need to be very careful about these things, especially people who have it.
Yakatri, my member back could be from war na expanded. One who say Elsie can for emotional control and a financial control. Sikanwa and Kofu International. Yeah, Nipanoa, a Juman Wakoye, Predenija, and she's a Canada. And Quadani Sika, not Papa Premodia to baby. And Wakati Yawahi, and that look our child, and one of the book I would treat you abuse to the extent.
Good. Inti yeah, ampa eno ye sikasem nso a high meaning bema bia ono oba ha bema won peduma. What is that?
Thank you.
Na won peduma. No ba no na ekwaduma o ku ne ho winter yi snow to no ba ni nem no no akoye adwuma ba no no di sika ba no waje card no yeah. Waje card no be man na ekuta card no okay when else yeto
Yeah.
Hey na yenye ne sa abusuafo yenye ne sa kra na yemfa no nto nchen na benefit e ade e high pa mo first kan kitingiti abandi mayen e ade ha relationships bebre e high pa say obande kodia na be man bisa na ken na udisi sika ye sika no mami hu na ni wo mu say meaning one case bi a obi mo fra ne benefit on no gi a no de ye niam a Ghana na wo ye niam a Ghana won so wuti ha yo abutuafo wuti ha yi na wo si dan yo so wo ye properties wo Ghana oba ni nim sika kakra se momo de boa mo ho ha no eno na wo di control me na me ye the head of the house me ni pani a onyankopon edi ne asi wo se me na wo se me rule family no enti kakra na beba no na me maji sika no na me de dia me pe no ba ne etete no ba ne ha edu ba bi kra oba ne sika ko ne de to sebio sanitary towel kra na ye den ma no.
Thank you.
Onunsu na eye adwuma yi o sometimes.
Thank you.
Kunu ya na mo be ma na ji sika ni nyina no control oba no. And me hu nso senior sometimes it works the other way. Oba no nso onu fi say meaning one case be well several cases kra oba no ewo enkrata wo krum ha na be ma ni bio enti onu fi say okay we ni enkrata de na me nso me ye de me pe ewo so na niema be ma no nso sika nyina na oba ni dwi ene shopping ye to shoe or try your top bag red bag green bag yellow bag we be kon go ayama e bi kura ni ho store room kura any ho bi well enye se e ma no nko a me ma no so e bre pa me ma ni bi no e bre wo ma ware mu any o relationship no e woni me se bio be ma ni krata nti no no use e no buni kwase a no se be ma no.
Thank you.
Wo de unim na keka mefre koti ama. Abusuafo yenye ne sa kra. Enti sika no sika eye ade a high empa. Na tisu
na no commonality am material the abuse no. The fare by ni bi ye ehunahuna. En
hyeso ampa.
Ki wo fa wo hudie edi free ne wonsem. Nipa pesa wo kire wo se wo no nko a nanim nyansa na wodie wunni wo hede fu bi esi nanim eno se Ghana for ta kapa nipa wo no ati ka kire wo moyere aya na wo munni what it really is eya wo mo say eya comment a wo mo kan me obi friend obi kasa asema ka kire said at best eya udasesem se wo be hu ne se onipa a wo ne na wo wuhia no na na fu enti nanim awo afro esi nanim na go bebo nipa wo be support nipa the wetimi aye changes not you wo dey just a wo dey seselo just a wo it is all about belittling and it's a dynamic na nipa person shifted to or no that's the basics of it
ebi o pro mati bedre obi abon 1 abon 2 hand apel
thank you
they took it to behind apel now one time yeah, na betra me ho obi am help na betra me ho
Yeah, into no.
Ama, ebebre.
Yeah. Into William. Into and no sign when who say about 1, about 200 per and no sign what say when we've got two way categories over here, or sometimes more. Into we can have a mix of them. When we say into yeah. Over here we can have financial abuse and emotional abuse.
Yes. Yeah.
Together. And sometimes when it's important, it's not and when he said when we say you better aware no within financial abuse no and so now William can no. Sometimes you would have you would have partners or couples saving money together, working and having a joint account, yeah. And then let's say the woman is a victim, so the woman comes to the man. The woman practically has to always be begging for her money that she is saving with her husband. It is a savings, it is a joint account. She should have right to her account, her money. She should have right to buy what she deems fit. But then when she wants money to maybe buy, like you said, even sanitary pad, or money to even, do something, really buy clothes for herself or whatever, the husband would be asking, okay, what do you want? Okay, so how much do you want for this clothes? How much do you want for this shoe? Is this shoe really necessary? Can't you wait for next month? And that's this woman, anytime she has to go to her husband for money, she feels so scared because she knows that she's going to be questioned. She knows that she has to really think through what she's going to ask in terms of what she's going to use the money for. She knows that, she's not going to have it easy. So she needs to make sure that she has her answers ready. She needs to make sure that what she's going to get, she can justify why she needs them. And this is her own money. There has been, again, cases whereby, I know of a case whereby women, cases whereby women have been, again, denied from, working. Or like going to or furthering their education. And again, I have heard of a case whereby this woman had been in this country for 17 years, and she could not speak English.
Yeah.
And then I was a social worker for the family, for the children. So when I had gone into the family and through conversation, she told me that she had been in this country and then within that relationship, there was domestic violence anyway. So, so when I was doing some sessions, direct work sessions with her, she was telling me that she's been in this country for 17 years. And then, the way we work is that when we are working with families who do not speak English, we would normally use interpreters. So she was saying that she has been in this country for 17 years and that, she's always wanted to, right from the first day, wanted to go to further educate, like go to school or something, or at best, just go and learn the English language. Mm-hmm. Because she said she knew a few friends who had come to this country. By the way, this woman was not a Ghanaian anyway, but then she's from another ethnicity. But then she was saying that she knew a few women who had come to this country, and the first thing they did was, to learn the English language. So they were going to do the ESOL classes, the speakers of those English for speakers of other languages. So those classes, and I think that is important because it helps you to integrate into the society. It helps you to understand how things work. It helps you to communicate with people. Simple things like going to the shop and communicating to somebody in the shop, a staff member, calling the police when you are worried, so those basic things. So so English, so most people when they come here, they want to learn the English language, which is really good. But then this man couldn't speak English. So after being in this country for 17 years, she couldn't speak English. She couldn't speak English. Yeah. And then so not knowing that the abuse had been going on over years.
Yeah.
She's been beaten, and physical abuse and all kinds of. But then because she couldn't speak English, the man kept telling him that you can't even call the police because if you call the police, what are you going to tell them? You can't even communicate with the police. So what are you going to tell them?
Exactly.
And then she told me that there was one day she picked the phone because that day she thought she was going to have a blackout because she had been beaten and she was so scared. And the man, so she called the police. She called pick up the phone, and she knew she could. Well, she knew about 999 through her child. So she phoned 999 when the kids were in school. But then when the police came there, she was really scared. She couldn't speak English. And then the husband told the police officer that, oh, don't mind her. She just making trouble. I'm not sure why she even called you. And then this woman said she couldn't speak English and she was, really scared of, even with a policeman being there. And then sometimes, you can have some professionals who are, called like culturally, they need some more training in terms of understand like cultural competence, if you know what I mean. So this police officer just left. She couldn't say anything. So when she left, she said the abuse became more because the man was telling her that so this is what you did. Who do you think you are? I brought you into this country and you want to mess things up for me. Who do you think you are? And that very night, she had, the worst beatings of her life. And she was so scared, there was no way she was going to call the police ever again. We became involved because a neighbor had called the police and social services for her. She wouldn't have done that never after that experience. And she was having this conversation with me because the husband wasn't there. And this is part of the way we do our jobs. Because imagine if the husband was there, would she have been able to say all these things to me? No. So that is, so that comes again under financial abuse. And then within, again, domestic violence, we've got physical abuse. And I know we all know that includes slapping, hitting, punching, kicking, grabbing, and then using weapons. A number of women have complained about being choked by the partner, being strangled, and then sometimes you can see bruises on people because they've been hit with an implement, with a chair, with a book, with something. You can see they've been punched. You can see the eyes. You can see. So those ones are physical abuse. You can see them. And then again, sometimes some women have also said that they have been, locked up in the house, and the partner or the husband has taken the key away, locking you in the house and going to work and not allowing you to go out. You can't go to the shop. You can't go anywhere. And then this is also a part of, isolating you from the community, from society. So you are constantly in the house. The only time the woman would go out of the house is when the husband is with her. So she can't go out on her own. And then just by chance, she happens to speak to somebody.
Elsie,
so she's lost.
Let's actually break this one down in she again. Abusuafo mu mu ahe na mu nim nipa ye de wo free Ghana aba. Na wo ba na ye de wo ma hyeden wo mpie nkọ ba bia train ne kura ye nkyere ne foro. Ba ye nkyere ne foro. Brofo ya mani usua. Enkwada ni school ho no kura no se wo be ko ha na ogina ba bia wo pa nkwada no wakọ. Ye ka kyere ne se teacher fo ne be chinare. Enti ma ne nkọ ba bia teacher fo. Minimum obi a wo ba ote kyere ba bia o. Enkwara no oboda ni kyere nkwara no oye se di eyi nkwara no ye teacher na be kon se wo mda no wada ne ho no o ma cheko because ya ka kyere de se woni teacher for ne kasa teacher for ne be free social workers ye free social workers who want to profile ye be chin nkwara ne free them. And these things are very common e wo ye community. We all know these people like your pastor ya your power untimi ne won kasa. We all know these people that we who any kunu wo ha just any ehwe form say we yet dying what many ti so kra na wo chia na wa just so. You all see those people in our community, and most of us choose to walk away. But sometimes the difference between survival and otherwise could be what obey your willing. So we better find because they are trapped. The abusers isolate them so well. Maybe I don't know what have 15 years. Now one from after that. One fruit that one name cities like Papa Nini Hokra and crossing against a one cobebia because actually he had programmed her own teaming cobebia taxi or nim cities friend. It was Shedem ho, Papa na mfasa kwa ntu nubudiye. But he has used another technique to lock her in. She has nowhere to go. These are all part of it anyway. And yet a brother. And when I highlight it,
and Amma, just to link it with what you are saying, yeah, even though in that situation, in that scenario, no, unlock your Danny yet, but woman no MPA because we're conscious in our dream said over the years, no, she's been made to know that she can't, she's not capable, she can't do it, she hasn't got anywhere to go, nobody can support her apart from the man, no, nobody can help her. Yeah, and because of that, you're working on her brain, no, on her mind, she when we accept here, and then that has impacted on her confidence. And then that again has paved the way for her to have low self-esteem. And because of low self-esteem, I know say many people will be many times we ask, say, now why do women who are victims of domestic violence, why don't they leave? We ask these questions so many times. Why don't they leave? Because after all this, after what all that the man is doing to you, why don't you just leave and then just be free? We would go into it later on. However, what we need to understand is that this is one of the factors. They can't leave because where is she going to? She has been programmed. She has been taught all along that she can't, there's nowhere for her to go. These messages are just in her brain, in her mind. She knows that there's no help out there. She knows that she's dependent on the man. She knows that she can't function without the man. So she just won't leave. So it takes bravery for a woman to make a decision that I am leaving a domestic violence relationship. It takes a lot of bravery. And that is why when a woman decides to leave, it is important that there is a lot of support. The right support is in place for her. Many women would not leave because what is out there for me? Again, let us face it. There are a number of reasons, again, why a woman will not leave. We're talking about stigma and all that. Obviously, we will be going into that. But then, so many reasons why a woman will not leave. So this is really a big thing. And this is, really, and this is part of it. We would be, if you are happy, William, do you have anything to add or should we go to?
Yeah. Idea Bakwa, high and pan, so at the moment, idea about a friend of modern day slavery.
Thank you.
Nintie Moane said, Yanko for Nibi or Ha, no Akofobi, Nibusiani Biaba. Oh, Maimu, not an intent. Na Busiani Yajuma. Into all Yajumanano, Wajin, the bank details, Wajin Bibia. Into Nipani Yajumano, no, no, control Sicano. Nti basa hank of one pa because adwuma ye oni control ni sika no ndabi ono na kasa wo koye adwuma we ebi kura ba no mo ma koye prostitution unfortunately e ade wo ho e ade wo ho pa ni nyina ye domestic abuse ni nyina ka ho Martin Sembebre obi anu akofa ni nua ba wo se me na metua won krata ma o ene e wo se wo ye adwuma sei and your mohu, if you are crap, no, I didn't fancy 15,000 and I be visa. Obinsua, na wakofa nibusu ya nibiaba. Na nibusu ya nino, one babe fie nyuma nyina mano. Say nipa ne person obeye they are fair enough, and a matter of consent. But I want to me my funny say ono me yakwa wo fie, there be yenya ne sa against emra wo kromu ha or memu ha. Nti na me person me can be kakra. Slavery. It's a huge
into William over there. We can all see the power dynamics over there, the imbalance of power over there within the modern day slavery, because we've got somebody who has the upper hand because he is bringing you from one country to here. He has got maybe he has got maybe a settled status. You haven't got that. You kind of depend on him, and then you kind of depend on him because let's face it, you've come to a new society, a new culture, which you are not even used to. And then he would have to be guiding you. So you practically depend on this person. And because of the power imbalance in that relationship, the person can use the situation to abuse you, the victim.
Yeah.
So
And the
yeah, so
bottom line is that there's fear. Fear and the drivers are because one crowd so hey, me can say can't afraid go timamia, say me who actually me. Yeah, I didn't be coffee. It's a pass and nipanis o kuno or who cry not that shooting. Because want to go back to Ghana, then want to go back to the you free buyer. Oh, and ten one say nipa no so nimpa, nipa no ten nchen, o nimpa. It's a pass na nipa ne your person ye ni bia o tumi de ye. Yeah.
yeah, and over here, no, so we see why women or victims of domestic violence will not leave the relationship. Because then William can, you know, the person is stuck between two impossible choices to, you know, to choose, or in the middle, either to stay with the abuser and continue being abused, or to leave. So in the case of Obia Ebia, only like only settled status and only like, you know, well, settled status, and I say, or what like no recourse to public funds, you know. Or no, well, or Jane will say, okay, set me die relationship here. The other option for me is to be deported because, you know, and then sometimes, you know, for women who are here, like for, I mean, not just women, but then for people, let's say women who are here on spousal visas. Yeah, this person is here and the stability of her relationship, you know, would then make her, you know, well, after a number of years, she's going to have her settled status. So this man will be telling you that if the marriage doesn't work, you are going to be deported because you have to stay with me for maybe 5 years before you can have your indefinite stay. So this woman would then have to be enduring an abusive relationship, having to, you know, being controlled, or hoping that the 5 years would come really quick. Just before we move on to the next bit, you know, there is currently what we call the domestic violence rule anyway, because and that came about because of, you know, what we're talking about, that, you know, a number of spouses who had come here were facing domestic violence in the relationship, and it was primarily because of that power dynamics over there, because they didn't have settled status. So now the government is saying that the domestic violence rule is saying that if you can evidence that domestic violence was or is the result or the cause of the relationship breakdown, you can't have a settled status. But then it can be a tedious process. You would have to get a solicitor and all that. So we are moving on to sexual abuse. Sexual abuse. Many a time people are like, how can you be married, or and then how can sexual abuse, and you know, people are like, you women are crazy. How can sexual abuse in a relationship, in a marriage, for instance? You are married to the person. The Bible is saying that your body belongs to each other. So, hello, what are you talking about? Yes, sexual abuse is one of the categories of domestic violence. So we've got a situation, for instance, whereby, you know, you can't force your partner or your wife, or, you know, for sex. It has to be via consensual. If you are having sex, if you are pressurizing her to have sex, if you are having sex with her against her will, that is sexual abuse. If you are touching her against her will, that is sexual abuse. If you are punishing her, because she's not having sex with you, you know, punishing her as a result of that, or if you are having unsafe sex with her without her consent, that is sexual abuse. So like in terms of unsafe sex, for instance, you know, the wife is telling you that, you know, I want you to use condom or something like that, or I want us to, you know, protect ourselves. I'm not comfortable with this. The whole thing is, it has to be consensual. So you people would have, so if you don't agree with it, you two would have to have you know, discuss it and come to an agreement. It has to be consensual. There have been situations whereby also partners have asked, you know, the other partner to have sex with other people against her will.
Yep.
And that is sexual abuse, threatening her to have sexual, intercourse with other people. And again, making you dress in a way that you don't want to. Making you dress in a way that you don't want, in a sexual way, you don't want it. But then he's just saying that, no, I like to see my woman like that. I want you to see you really hot. I want to see all the bits and all the bits. So I want you to wear this one for me. If you don't feel comfortable, you shouldn't be made to wear it. So that's again falls within that. And again, and I just again, the man, making you feel that, one, because you are married to him or you are in a relationship or wherever, you owe him sex. Nobody owe anybody sex. It has to be consensual. Yeah. So William, do you want to come in?
Yes, that's right. It's a very crucial subject within a whole bigger subject. Yeah, it's a very sensitive topic too within our community. Now, I just want to emphasize that marriage doesn't give you the key to having sex anyhow.
Thank you.
Anytime, okay? I was surprised. I went to one domestic violence training a couple of years ago, and rather shockingly, I heard about one gentleman who said, well, we are married couple, so yeah, there should not be such thing called rape within marriage. Yes, I just stood there like that, completely dumbfounded. Yeah. So people don't realize that sexual encounters, whether you are married or not, is based on consent. And that's what I want to emphasize this point on. Okay. And to make point and I said, say ni pano wanjia tumwa, won't mean enkoda. Someone worry you, moon worry you. The fact someone worry and say, whoa, automatic right. No, it should not be that way. It's based on consent. And yes, sir, it's classed as rape, unfortunately. Yes, and it gets even complicated when one of the partners lacks what we call mental capacity to consent to having the relationship.
Yes.
Where somebody may have a mental disorder, for example, bipolar or dementia or things like that, acquired brain injury. Yeah, they may have an accident which may lead to impairment or disturbance in their functioning of the mind or brain. Now, when that happens, and they cannot consent to having sexual encounters, I'm afraid that is classed as a crime. Yeah, and I think at some point we will dwell more into this. Yeah, but my point is that the overarching thing here is based on consent. So where one person doesn't want to, we cannot force the person. Yeah, and the partners should not see this as a means to be influenced by the other. No, not to be seen as a control, nothing like that. Yeah? So where we have fear, then we need to be very careful here. Where one person is afraid to voice their opinions, to express themselves within the relationship, I'm afraid then it's a clear sign that there is abuse going on. Yeah, and people should be free, people should be happy, people should have a healthy relationship. That's what it's about. It's all about love. Yeah, it's a two-way thing, and that's what it should be.
Excellent. Also, Elsie Kasani, she raised something I want to harp on a little bit. Self-control, withholding sexual favors from a partner. And yes. And they don't realize that in itself is also abusive. You have the right to consent or otherwise. And you won't propobia was shed up so person starving a partner sexually. Or shut or ban to continue. If one funny home canoe, there's a case which came to me a few weeks ago. 8 solid months. You couldn't impose in his account. Or person panic show. He's using sex to reduce mameno or person and be breaking mameno well or person or dear no control rod. It's me as madam catching mameno debut sister. Adia going with at the proper soil or person or deep soon. Break you with spirit. Or pet control you in other ways. Now, when other ways are waiting here, you should. It will dim say our real dear, you say, and not in frank coming. Won't be covered my wagon, especially at woman, won't be covered my. It's Wawarano, and no. Yeah, the other person who wager will miss you. And when I am sexually frustrated, it's your hand no catch it. You got it 4 times a day and over that. You got it 4 times not one in that. So what you know better. Sister, what to come baby one in that. Oh, maybe Minisika, me whom to me back. This is the day in the bank account to be Kenya, and that is what he was after.
Which means that within that, you can see other elements of abuse, because you can see emotional abuse over there.
Yes.
You may be able to see financial abuse over there. Or you swear in a way, to again abuse you in various forms.
That's what he wanted. He wanted money. Now, Omunu say, Obisesi Kanu and I say, Waka, and Yasembeba. It would decide so baby sister and what children. Sister, he has said this. Into a young waka or say, girl, or eso. Oh, Stakoto dieting, the bed, and the swimming at it, where you are. After was say, Huni. Sister, ye daddy up upon snipper, the way we are seeing, where you are. After they could do baby as some catcher and they said, one, Sissika, some Hanua. I asked the cry near you. It is sisters when a butcher or pursue me and a cacra. So it's answer here, it's been here 2000. What we yaba. So I don't know there's half a family who are still one to see baby. I was still there being sick. As if I catch your sister can be ya. I didn't mean sister didn't suck idea you could do to that. He is not interested in the relationship, really. Or no, what you know, or you're not dear baby. But I said what this idea with. Eddie control ya by and who Jimmy Husika, and that is what he's doing. Or ya no do 2,000 pounds, choppable pounds. No, then I said 5 minutes. And yes, I said you're running in city with you. Car was say Onisika Nihunico. And that is again one of the things a lot of our men do. And you're restricted to some. Many people suffer this thing, but they will not open their mouth to say it.
Sure.
As I see a kind of openly, as I say, what told me who say, there are narcissistic people amongst us. We have many narcissists. And because it's a woman they isolate you, one can't do. Yeah, they baby a good who fit dear back one. Would you be any a dime? It's Emma will watch your name, but wouldn't be part of it. Now, if you will penny paproni chelsea because we are frustrated sexually for such a long time. It's to cast man 10,000 pounds crab packaging on the Adia now wash your AEC cannot in the first place. Yakani in they comiums or they prepare grounds, no dear need to adequate wash your Adia was a wow. Oh, yes, and when you pass, I prefer make a Ethiopia for only a Ghana for Mema. And it is everyone.
And I said, I walk on Ama. What's that? When soon you idea away home, obviously, Uncle Culture be say, this is what my husband is doing. Especially for a woman, because of how our society, Etienne, and the role of women in the society in terms of how, we, as a woman, we don't expect you to come out and talk about sex.
No.
If you and after we see sex to be some if an example sacrimonial idea when you don't talk about you don't really discuss with people about sex. Now let's face it, right from young right from our infancy, we haven't been our parents, most parents did not even discuss sex with their children. Because it was almost like a taboo word.
Yes.
So you grow up and then being married and finding yourself in such a situation. And again, for a woman, in terms of pleasure and sex, a woman, you are not supposed to talk about sex a lot, even in the marriage. Most women we've been told, or society has been shaped, for in a way that women have been made to know, well, have been made to understand that you have to satisfy the man. So you should always be ready. And that is why in a number of marriages, you don't even see women enjoying sex, you know, because of the way they've been trained and the way the society, you know, like a view of ban, who are banning if the man is denying you sex, imagine you can't, there's no way you can discuss this with your pastor.
No.
You know, it takes a few women who can do that when this area with me or somebody that really, really close to. But then normally you won't. And you know, just like Anna is saying, you are most likely to fall victim to this man because you can't go out. You don't want to defile yourself.
Also,
And one of the ways of, you know, where men control women in terms of this very topic we're talking about is when women have been called, a number of women have been called prostitute. You go to work, you don't come early, you know, you are called prostitute. You know, whatever. You're talking to somebody on the phone, he calls you, who is that? Oh, my work colleague. Oh, you are flirting with this person. You are a prostitute. I didn't marry a prostitute. I don't want you to speak to this person again. You know, so because of that label, because of that, you know, and that is part of emotional abuse.
Thank you.
You know, so yes, Amma, that is really a good point. You know, a number of women are going through it. And then within that, like I said, there can be financial abuse, there can be other aspects because he's using that to control. It's all about controlling your sexual desires.
Yeah, and it can work in both ways as well. Where I've also come across your viewpoints. Yeah, I've seen it in real life. The other side of it is where some women also use that as a tool to control the man. Okay, there's buy me Louis Vuitton before. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, buy me this brand new. Oh, I see me call for me now for I see you sue you. Range Rover, range na cost you. Until want to be some and any will never. Yeah, until I cost super. Until a man in side, a man also bread. I mean, man, almost control mon super. Yeah, can young value
yeah. Anna William, when you keep talking about healthy relationships and not, you know, when a clear sign so this is not a healthy relationship because in every healthy relationship, you know, couples, you know, should be able to solve problems, communication, talk. If this is not there, and I said, Obi. When we not be using sex, I mean depriving the other person's sex, and you know, and then without you two being able to talk about it, that is definitely not a healthy relationship. And I keep saying that, you know, when I'm doing sessions on healthy relationships with families or with parents, I do say that we all go into relationships to complement each other. You don't go and marry your enemy. You don't go and, you know, have a relationship with your enemy. So you by all means you go into this with somebody you like. So right from the onset, you are looking for something from that person which will complement you, which will make you a better person. So if you find yourself then in a toxic relationship, that is not a healthy one, and it's not good for your mental well-being. It's not good for your physical well-being. That is definitely no. So yes, so let us spot these signs and know how to, you know, what we really need to do and what we really want for ourselves. If you are happy, are we happy for us to go into the next stage to look at?
William said, "Me, I'm looking at what this is. I am looking at. We could rush through these things and leave the details, or we could actually separate them into two sessions and actually delve. Me personally, I would prefer to not even cover much more ground, but to delve.
Yes.
To delve in the ISS, you know, and get more details. I want people to know practical examples. Me say, this week, Obi Fremi or no, ya abuse no for what's now I say 14 years. Every shade, color of abuse, because I knew the topic we were going to discuss, and I throw it to the audience, and a few people just to get feelers. Now you didn't come on the topic, the man you didn't come on before starting say one more come over there. And I'll catch and say, oh my God, I've been abused. I did not know. Oh my God, I have been abused. I did not know. Because Papa na money that. Ono kra de no capacity won ka bo. E ye near marketing kete e free afraid you. If oba de we fie say dia. Afraid de e ma e kita ho ye you. So ni wa so afraid nti.
When we say emotional abuse, it's within that, name calling, demeaning you, making you feel so bad. Now make us away and no impact on your self-esteem. So am I when you low self-esteem? And once you get to that low self-esteem, and one know when now or back control to tell remote control, like he's gotten you because they can be away here. Or say, well, you're not nice, you're not good looking, you look really ugly, no man would want you. And then if he should go out there are thousands of women he would get because he looks really fine and the girls have been chasing him. So you are so lucky to have him. He tells you that you are so lucky to have me. And that is why if I ask you for money, you should not even hesitate. Because once I get out there are so many women who are happy to lavishly spread on me. So you are so lucky. So don't think that it's that £1,000 or that £2,000 that would, I am doing you a favor actually by getting married to you.
My point is that especially people who married, when you saw somebody initially, there's some attraction there, wasn't it, before you go into that relationship. You have to face facts. People go through changes. We all go through changes, especially when you've given birth to kids. Body will change. The whole thing may change, and we in the relationship have to accept that we do go through changes and have to come to terms with these things. Where I've come across people saying, well, oh, you were not like this. You used to be so beautiful. Now bunyam or tunyam sisi people go through changes. We need to accept these things. Now ne bunyam ne tunyam ne said you nefu ebon enim e den na nso aye wo ho. How many times we encourage say, oh, brand exercise be kakra. Why tunya ye bibi? When ye bibi wo ho.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of going to the gym, and I think Elsie knows that. And I encourage not just my wife, I encourage people. Get into these things. But who say a good relationship na issues woman obana na bema na emboa ni nyonko no uhu sa de we say ade a wo pani pa na asem a wo beboa no meboa wo beboa no support the person. Meaning oh, come on, let me go and get a tummy tuck for you, darling. People pay thousands of pounds to get that done.
How many difference though? You're willing to do something. That's willing to do something. And would the baby matter no? And yet two will be 2 100 years so. The me time crowd. They say and this is what I'm getting a lot of reports on. Oh, how also be afraid I catch it and I said, oh, am I winning? I'm going to say, am I your classmate? And I only the 22 who says when you see Obi is a case, if I'm so unconscious, and say me could be me. It is also percent in Yijaya Brewaba, 1 man a year of top. And it comes from that. Sign 999 a young pro for shedder a year was. Most people don't realize it seeps into your psyche, it disturbs your equilibrium. 81 kasa ni pano wa imbalance. Into one kasa will tip one and shed and you're comfortable, sir. One kasa will GD will move a new hope you. 81 and said, only maybe 7 in hands were family. I don't care. More moving in a musua, Names, Renam Corbett. Because me and family, my phone doesn't really affect me much. But will be what need the new half of me. But say you better can maybe see the console all the time. So people who say me pan one kasana warm.
Yeah.
I know people who were real go-getters when they were younger. But our warrior is that they do know any petty when a sunny chicken won't crank to don't say nipan one casa, the sunona essa. The sunny fras, yes, or no one casa who the safi was sa. Ni wun ye kabi. Nipa may ni be. Na fe or more, even more, not or chinny who free nipa even more. And yes, I no young. Tell me, wouldn't any pebiani need you come and I could feed you. What's here when you want? What's here when you want? A free I cast as a good to Zafi. And it's a journey a lot of men take women on. And a man and one has a friend need one part to it. One way abusive. They don't even realize. And the home the person said that this idea no one come. Now, man, will be one can say this answer from him. They will say there be way I can't racism. Way say it is abuse, and you don't want to have that label. So you correct the behavior. More examples of abuse. If you know more practical examples, please bring some. The person will be also I will bet you a video. Or experiences abuse, maybe your own who say or your victim, and the perpetrator also needs to know. So on also abusive.
Yeah. Now, meaning one particular one where this is about a man, a lady, on you're interested in a relationship at the moment. I just say, Basa cry now, or yeah, bearman. Because unfortunately, bearman put you on excess weight. Why you overweight? Or worrying that they were nipping or you're slim. So now got to a point that or say, hey, now this park and everywhere. Me worry now this park. Now you see there one park cramp, I bro 1 park 0 park na me who see here. In summer nipe cano, words are seeds, and people should note this. Words are seeds. Whether it's positive or negative, it's still a seed. And who sow good seed, you reap good seeds, good fruits. Who sow bad seeds, exact thing you reap. Yeah, that pigeon garbage out. That's what you get. And meaning classical examples are some of the men are also going through.
Yeah.
Body shape. Oh, now what for now? This is how we trim in our hands. This is how I connect it. Hey, I'm the one who team pass you. Now see how I say. Oh, now what you say? I see I agree. Hey, what walk a crowd? Oh, and in Yama be brave or why? Sometimes we say it well in a simple term, in loosely without realizing. Say they have a long-lasting impact on people. We don't even realize that. Yeah, these are words. These are negative that get to sowing into people, and unfortunately, that's have a negative long-term effect on people. Yeah, examples in the library. We have to face facts.
Jimmy for. Also, fast will be any reaction. After this is the general rhetoric. It was sorry, welcome to the Abrabomende, Pasia Penny. And yes, the Aduane main one, we are Pasia Penny. Mea, we are Pasia Penny. The comedy neba, we are Pasia Penny. So if you would have been it, I can go to get you, we are Pasia Penny. Your best son was Amra, and a lot of our men actually have that little man syndrome. Because women, Ghana for my good one, you're very abusive. And men abusive physically. What we use other techniques. But verbal abuse, in Ghana for my territory, because you ain't seen more, the Yano. She are not the
back to the William Americano. I will keep going back to healthy relationships.
Yes.
Now, many a times, we realize that we don't compliment each other.
No.
Not at all.
How many times do you say, "Oh, my beautiful wife"?
Oh,
If somebody says beautiful, well, you say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. The fact that I say that my husband is the most handsome person in the world, and that not means that to you, he well, but then beauty, we've got outer beauty, we've got inner beauty. So
Absolutely.
you now, to you, your partner is the most beautiful person because you value the person. Well, it's not only about like physical beauty. It's about how valuable the person is to you. And how many times do we say that? Oh, my beautiful wife. How many times do we keep complimenting each other? Who wife dressing nicely, and she like she's going out. Oh, I like your top. I like your trousers. I like your hair. Oh, those earrings fit you really, really well. Compliment. In man, do we compliment relationships? So many times we are looking for fault. We spend a lot of energy searching for fault. We don't do a lot of compliments. It is not really part of us, and that is why that is why we also transfer that to our children. When we're working with children, a number of times I tell parents that when children comes home with certificates of 100% attendance, or oh mommy, look, daddy, look, I've got this from school. What they are too, baby, because we are not used to complimenting.
No.
We are not used to looking at the positives. And you just take this thing. 100% school attendance. You don't even say well done, or you just say, oh, give me high five, oh, well done. Tomorrow we're going to this place because you smashed it. I'm really proud of you. But then if the child, if school should call you and tell you that the child has done A, B, and C, and they are really not happy, and then they want you to talk to the child. The child comes home and then bang on, you are so upset, and you're going to punish that child. Debiano, we are looking at the negatives. Debiano, we react on the negatives. We don't, focus on the positives.
But I also withholding compliments.
Yes.
Withholding affirmative, your friend is tools. And one of the things it's isolating.
Yeah.
And we practice this thing, and we don't again know that we are abusive ourselves. Obi a winning it. Semani in Abeka, when you will that's the UCSA and now making efforts we are demoralizing you completely. It's the idea and one cast a so class a free wo home model. Is Papa we are all such what father was we do what you and with inside it could influence the way you think about yourself. It could influence the way you attack life, your attitude to life generally. Withholding affection is abuse. It is
and that is emotional abuse. And that can gradually develop into mental health. You can have mental health issues out of that because you have such low self-esteem of yourself. You don't think you can do it. You get so stressed with yourself because you don't see anything good about yourself. And then gradually you begin to lose it. You begin to lose it gradually because of all these negative words being said about you. You lose your confidence, no confidence at all. I can't do this. No, I can't do this. No, it's not me because of all those messages. Gradually, you begin to lose it. Mental health. Another time, we will be talking about domestic violence and mental health. That is, William is the expert over here.
Yeah. Now, Adiaba Kwanan campus me bosso titru faith groups, Christopher, Muslim for Seba our man, our relationship man. The man is seen as the head of the family. So what you say? And conform manipulate that now affecting relationships for a big time.
Yes,
woman, oh, the say you have to submit.
Yo,
yeah? They'll quote it. So, oh yeah, you need to submit. That's what the Bible says. Submit to the man. Yeah, I'm being the head of the family. And to me, the head of the other is a power in
thank you.
But Antissa, because as I said, in any healthy relationship, power dynamics should be equilibrium. It should be on that level. Yeah. So where somebody feels, oh, actually, only the head of the family, no manipulative woman. So okay, yeah, Bible say that say, oh yeah, man, also you have to submit. No, and you can answer the woman in the relationship should not be seen as a subservient. No.
Thank you.
It's equal partners, I call it. Equal partners within a relationship.
Thank you.
Oh, a player means me a player. I mean, I buy a game. Yeah. And to own your superstar. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you're superstars. Own your lesser of a player than me. And that's what people need to recognize that. And it's really affecting that. People are using religion. Yeah, the Christosum, yeah, the Islam, so many are affected relationship. And so for time I was here, almost cancer property. So, and it was so good to see. Last 2 weeks, Church Barco, they were talking about this topic, and I had a phone call about it. And my very good friend, he's been invited to actually speak in a conference, and he's going to be on the team. Yeah, and churches, and then they need to recognize churches.
Yes.
Pastors and penny for what? Sorry, when I can, and yes, it's your baby, I saw for any members in the
William, your religion.
Sorry, when or pastor and I say be or elder this sorry, when or bumpire or just shows or sa or preaching in your manema. And so a coffee or your perpetrator of domestic abuse.
Thank you.
Or your perpetrator. Or control the wife, to that, like, to say, or control the wife, so much, or bone the wife, with fear, financial abuse, or none of your boss, or none of your controls, all these things are happening. It's not yet cast away. When we're talking about domestic violence, anybody can be a perpetrator. The fact that, this person is whatever in the church doesn't mean, say, he can't be or she can't be. Until we need to be really careful. And like William said, in our communities, we need to be educating. We need to be creating awareness. And I sorry say, when was that? Until a good so my example says somebody was preaching about domestic abuse in the church and how members can be, and know the signs and how people will be empowered and how people can be well supported. So it is important that the church would also work with services. Like for instance, Women's Aid, work with them, do some work with them, to better understand what this topic is about or what this, is about, to better understand how, as a church, you can support victims. Because it is not only a matter of, say, many a times, because of lack of training, the woman or whoever is the victim will be told by the pastor or, elder or whoever the church, whoever is in the church, head, that pray about it. Pray. Oh, vampire, oh, you're not praying enough. You're not praying enough at all. Oh, Sister Mary, you're not praying.
I have a war room, vampire.
So we've got a husband who is the perpetrator, and we've got the victim here who has the added burden. Apart from being the victim and going through all that, she has the added burden of having to keep praying. She's going to die. She's going to die because the burden is just too much for her. What she needs is support. What she needs is support. And we are not doing that. She needs support. We can't just tell her, go and pray, you'll be okay, go and pray. Oh, and then when she can't, because we don't really have much insight into domestic violence, we don't feel really competent enough to support the person. All we keep saying is that, oh, you did not pray enough. Keep praying. Keep doing more, pay more hours. Spend time and fast. Did you fast? You should be fasting also. And this woman is just killing herself for this perpetrator. No. What she needs is support. Be able to direct her. Say, this is what you need to do. You know, that's what you, and then again, what we need to realize is that when we have children in that environment, it's double whammy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this woman has been told to endure, has been told to pray. Do we understand the impact it is having on her well-being? Do we understand the impact it is having on her children who are witnessing this abuse? Because do we get it? Yeah. Children should not be in that environment. It is not a healthy environment. It is not. Yeah, it's not. What are we teaching the child? What are we teaching the child? Because mom is still there. Mom is still praying. Dad is still abusing her. The child is seeing all that. What message are we giving the child? Again, do we understand the impact of domestic violence on children? No. Bedwetting, mental health issues, and all that, low self-esteem and all that. You know, these kids go to school and they are even sleeping at school because the whole night dad has been screaming. They can't even have a good enough sleep. They can't concentrate because they have seen dad beating mom and mom screaming, and they have nightmares when they are sleeping. That is impacting on the child. Do we get it? We don't. We don't, because we don't. The woman needs support, practical support, practical and emotional support. And we need to be able to feel confident enough as a church, as a community, as leaders, to be able to give these people the right information.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, and then we are coming to, I tend to not go beyond 1.5 hours too much, so that people who don't watch live are able to come back and watch it. But
we will come back and then continue.
We'll continue this one. But me can say be ansani yako. Yaba so for so. But what your culture system, then you suffer no. Family head, the figure head, even what papa in most homes. Wabusia. Woman make crowd in one grab but your whole value system actually places a man at a position to be abused. Sana your culture etie. You wouldn't say you abuse or baby. Nobody really recognizes it as anything wrong. Debbie, the woman is supposed to endure. I thought that it is your fault somehow. So abusive. One no need ding it be a one parent. Nkasa. Or bro cranyes would you say you go for Nkasa? Would you kokosha baby? Sani a becachero ain't the whole thing, the church. Oh, Sister Nelly, the church, the home, upon thing culturally, no Sani are setting up. And we don't even realize yet.
Yeah, that is very right.
Yeah.
Near Bissau said, Dientina, what did you do for him to do that? Because sometimes sometimes some men or some abusers, have said that I've been doing well. I had to beat her or I had to do this to her because she disrespected me. What we need to understand is that the other time I was just saying that I was having a session with a young man, right, who did hit the partner, and this the police. This one called the police, and then this guy was picked up by the police, and then he went to prison for a while. So when he came back, I was having a domestic violence session with him, and then he was telling me that he did what he did because this woman made him angry. This is a black guy, right? And then he was dating a white woman. So he was saying that the lady was being racist, was using racial words, you know. But then I was telling him that this is how domestic violence, the whole thing works. That you can't justify beating, hitting somebody because the person is disrespecting you. No, you can't. You can't. Yeah? You can't justify. I'm not saying that what the lady did to him or said to him was good. No. But then it's the approach he used, his actions. Yeah? His actions are not justified. So I told him that what she did is unacceptable. However, your response to it is inappropriate. I was asking him that if this should happen again, I want you to reflect. If this should happen, he said, I will just leave the house and then have fresh air and just to calm down. And I said, yes, that is one of the approaches. You can't hit somebody because the person is disrespecting you. It doesn't make sense. And when you say that, and you know, so you can't justify. That is the whole point. You can't say me on board here into me bone. You can't say that. It in any normal relationship, in any healthy relationship. What for say or ban on board here or now the question is anyway in that relationship. Let us put that aside anyway. But then you have to communicate. Why do we struggle to communicate? Why do we always want to use action, doing this, hitting people? Well, is it many a times we realize that they are picking this up. They go to school and they are hitting other children. Or before we pen our schooler now on pair and then booker now we're hitting them because we see learned behavior. We need to learn to communicate.
Yeah.
When you are not happy about something, you need to learn to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's in America, a number of times we want to ask the woman, your victim, say, what did you do to the man? What we need to understand is that in a domestic violence relationship where one is a victim, the victim is never it's never his or her fault. There are always better and healthier ways, to address things. Let us again once we're talking about it, let us again understand why many women will not go out there to seek for help. So we're talking about the fact that victims may think that it is their fault.
Yeah.
Because me A, B, and C. And then again, we know how the stigma thing works. Stigma. Even in the church and even among your friends. Oba, you are a victim of domestic violence. The person may be saying that, oh, really? Oh. And then the next thing, the person will ring somebody to tell the person. Instead of the person being supportive, I'll gossip it. And are we surprised that a number of women would not be reporting or be seeking help? Because on China, you are going to just just gossip about her marriage. We need to be supporting each other. We need to be supporting each other. Gossiping should not be a part of us in terms of our friendship, in terms of relationships, because this prevents a number of people from seeking help. Let us know that anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. Anybody can be a victim of domestic abuse. It could, irrespective of your social status. And then again, it takes bravery for victims to come out and seek help, because there are a number of reasons why they wouldn't do that. And we've mentioned them already. There are a number of reasons why victims will not come out and seek help. There are a number of barriers.
Yes.
We should make things a lot easier for people. Listen to the person. Open your ears and listen. See how you can support this person. Don't go about gossiping. Offer good advice. Support, offer practical support, offer emotional support. Be there for these people. Anybody can be a victim. It's never their fault.
Absolutely.
William, my member wants to wrap it up. Elsie has done a great, passionate end for me. But also final few words about discussing, and we will continue this for sure. We are not done. We are not done at all.
Good. The only person may catch everyone is we have to recognize that abuse does occur in any relationship. Okay, so that's number one step. We need to recognize that, and where there is fear, that should show the red flag that no, there's something not right here. Where you see fear in a relationship, fear to speak your mind in a good way, not in an insulting way, fear to communicate with your partner, fear to bring something on board, a discussion, then it tells you, something is not right there. Once you spot that, then you need to do something about it. Don't wait till it hits crisis point. Don't wait till it hits tipping point before you start seeking help. No, seek it as early as possible. Start communicating with your partner as early as possible. So your number one thing is to recognize it. Number two is to seek support. And number three, if you are in crisis, you need to report it. Absolutely. Don't suffer in silence. Sister, brother, no, you're not on your own. Seek support. There's so much support out there that you can seek. Yeah, tap into those avenues, tap into those resources out there. Don't sit and suffer in silence. There are people out there who can support you, who can help you to bring you out of that abusive relationship. So don't suffer in silence. Don't keep it to yourself. No, feel free. There's this culture about us as well sometimes, where people they keep it to them, so they don't want anybody else to hear. And as a matter of fact, I kind of understand them, because sometimes it's difficult to confide in somebody else. You tell your story to somebody, and the next minute, the whole all and sundry will hear about your story. Yeah, so I can understand that. But you need to also not to keep this thing to yourself. There are people out there who are professionals who can actually help you. So please, 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 do not keep these big issues that people encounter to yourself, not alone. No, share it and deal with it as early as you can.
Fabulous.
And next time when we discuss it, I've got there's a whole list of myths that I would like to dispel. Yeah, so big time. Various topics about myths on domestic abuse. Yeah. So thank you.
We will do that next. So guys, listen. Today, my main thing was for you to know what it was. I wanted you to know the different types of it. I want you to recognize it when you see it. And we also wanted you to know that sometimes the victim themselves are incapable of seeking support. So as part of somebody in the society, it becomes your moral responsibility to flag up sometimes with authorities. So if you hear slapping and screaming in your neighbor's home, that's why other people pick the phone and call the police to come check it out. If you see children with funny marks playing in the garden, it might be a good thing also to flag up, so those more qualified than you, those who can have access to the home, can come check it out. If you notice something at work, or you notice something at church or wherever, it is also part of your social responsibility to also flag up via the official channels and get people better placed to check things out and offer support, because sometimes the victims themselves are incapable of requesting help. It's one of the things that happens in abuse. Sometimes the victim, actually, majority of the time, the victims themselves are incapable of seeking help. So don't ignore it. Don't say it's not your business. It is your social responsibility, in fact, to make sure that you keep me and I keep you, and we protect each other much better in a community. We will come back and talk about this. We definitely need to hit the myths, but I want to keep it in a time frame so people who missed it will be able to come and do the reruns. It doesn't become too long and more people are able to access. Not enough people have seen the show. Can you do me a favor? Can you share it to your pages for me so people in your friendship groups can see it? If you want to run watch parties with it on your own page, please go right ahead and do so. Tag people, share it to WhatsApp, put it in the usual groups where you share stuff so the information actually gets to people who need to hear that. Join me this evening in thanking Elsie. Elsie, you brought passion to the topic. I loved it. And William, it was wonderful to see you with a perspective. It's refreshing to hear that. Because
Right.
sometimes but the men's side was also quite obvious, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very soon. Bye.
Bye.